Kamahana Kealoha here. Aloha again. I'm here, Madam Hearing Officer.
Good afternoon, Mr.
And everyone
Kealoha.
else. Yeah. Before, if I'm forced to begin, before I begin, I want to make a point of clarification. Aren't the hearings allotted to 4:30 p.m. before we were expected to not be here for our kuleana or our responsibilities? Because I have a flight to catch, that's what my concern is.
Yes, it is always been my intention and the practice to finish at 4 so we can take care of housekeeping matters, which we have a few things to talk about today.
I know.
However, we were advised that this witness is going to be unavailable
Yes.
for quite a lot of weeks if we don't finish him, and we just have you and Mrs. Freitas left, so I made the oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Kakalia. I apologize. And Ms. Kakalia, and that's it. So I made the decision that it would be wiser to finish.
When did you make that decision? Because I'm not aware of it.
I made it during the recess.
And you let us know.
I think I let you know when we came back.
I was not made aware that I would need to change my flight, so I didn't assume that you were going to do that.
Everybody's had to change their flights, but when I started...
Did they? Today?
Sir, I'm trying to explain to you that when we came back on the record after the last recess, I explained what we were going to be doing. I don't think you were in the room. I don't know because I didn't take a roll call.
I'm pretty sure after last recess I was in the room.
Okay, then you would have heard me explain that we're going to finish this witness and that, I had talked to the staff and that they're in the process of changing their flights. So we need to finish the witness.
Even though we haven't been given a notice that, I didn't receive that notice. Is it on the record? Because I thought I would have heard that. And to expect...
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I understand. And I'm trying to get through. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
May I request to be able to have my due process and cross-examine the witness the next time he's available?
Sir,
during the hearing.
It is your turn to cross-examine. You may go forward.
The schedule prevents me, the schedule that I believe I didn't receive notice on. How can you expect that with such short notice? And how is that due process? It immediately subjugates me. I know you don't mean it, but I'm serious about it.
I know that. You're being very respectful. I get that. But I am also trying to be respectful in return. And as I've said constantly, these hearings, we have to be flexible.
Exactly.
And believe me, nobody's happy about going, but we need to finish. And if you continue to argue with me,
I'm not trying to argue.
We're wasting valuable time.
Yes, we are, but I think we have been flexible, and there's a certain point where maybe Mr. Gunter needs to be flexible and come back when he has time during the hearings. Because why are we the only ones expected to be flexible in this sense? I believe it's a valid issue that immediately subjugates me, and was that the intent?
Okay, so you've made your record, but please go forward. It's your turn to cross-examine the witness.
Even without notice of the extended time, and even though it's going to subjugate me, cost me more money, and make it harder for a pro se person like myself to participate, and even though you know that there are other days coming out and Mr. Gunter can be more flexible, that's what I'm asking. This is not the only day for interviews or cross-examinations, just next week. And we also looked at November and December, and I'm pleading.
He's going out of the country for over a month.
And I sympathize with that. But I need to go too.
If you need to leave, you can leave.
Will I be able to bring my cross-examination rights
This
up?
witness is going to be done today.
And so you're going to deny me my rights to cross-examination?
I'm telling you what your choices are.
Can we or can we not bring Mr. Gunter back? Why is that an impossibility if not?
Well, this is day 5 of the hearing, and we've had a lot of these discussions that have sort of pushed us along to this long, extended period. Everybody has a bunch of witnesses that have been waiting. Folks want to schedule those witnesses so the witnesses can come here and know when they're going to testify. And we're not moving along because we can't get through. So I made the decision in the last recess, we're going to finish this witness. There are just 3 more people who are going to cross. I will ask the university if they're going to redirect. I'm asking you to please go forward.
Are there no regulations that protect us from this kind of aggressive and subjugating scheduling? Isn't there a notice
Is it your
requirement?
intention to go forward or not?
My intention is to clarify my due process rights.
Is it your intention to go forward or not?
If my due process is upheld, yes.
Your due process gives you the right to cross-examine this witness, and I'd like to ask you to go forward, please.
But, Your Honor, does it not also give me the right to notice?
You had noticed that.
What time was that notice?
The notice was given you till last week.
Not to extend past 4:30 p.m., which is what you told us, and I'm relying on what you told us, because last time we didn't, there was a big fuss about why didn't you clear October out? Well, I cleared my schedule to 4:30, like you stated, and I think I deserve some kind of formal due process notice.
Okay, you've noted your objection for the record. I'm asking you to please go forward. Sir, there are
Can I ask
other
for reconsideration right now? And invite others to have conversation about this too, because I don't think
We're
it's
not
just
going
me.
to converse about this.
Okay, how about a due process to actually consider this?
You've made your record.
Then I'd like to reconsider that decision.
Denied.
But you haven't heard any new
I hear
information.
you saying motion to reconsider. I'm asking you not to waste any more time, to please go forward.
I'm asking you to not subjugate me this way and impose the duress of more money it's going to cost me to go home, and maybe other people too. I mean, this is...
Well, sir, it's up to you. You decide what you want to do.
Okay, if it's up to me, I would like to recall Mr. Gunter at some time in the future when he's available for cross-examination.
If you have a basis to recall him, I certainly will consider that.
I believe my basis is pretty much no notice.
I don't believe you have your basis right now.
You don't have a written notice uploaded to the document library that says this.
Okay, so you've made your record. You can check the rules.
Okay, well, so your decision on the reconsideration?
I'm asking you for, I don't know, quite a number of times to please go forward with your cross-examination.
So that's the first decision, right, that you made when I asked you. And that's the same decision you're standing with for the reconsideration. I just want to be clear that you're processing this reconsideration of mine.
You don't think I've been clear?
Well, I mean, this is for the reconsideration then.
Reconsideration of the decision I just made?
Yeah.
For all the reasons I just said?
Yeah, because I still have all the reasons I just said, which are just as valid.
Well, then we're all on the record. Please go forward.
Thank you for your time. Can I give Mr. Koo, because you acknowledged him earlier?
It's your turn for cross-examination.
I'm just checking. You didn't acknowledge him earlier? Okay. I'll move forward.
Thank you.
Aloha, Gunter. May I call you Gunter?
Aloha, yes.
Is it the right way to pronounce it, or am I a little bit off? Gunter, right?
Gunter.
Gunter. And we've met before. I don't know if we have to make any kind of disclosure, but we have met before. Do you recall where that was?
Yes, I think it was at the public open house for a planning session for the extension of the Mauna Kea master lease in Honolulu. In Honolulu, yes.
In Kaka'ako, you're talking about?
Kaka'ako.
Down near the medical school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is that the only time we've met?
No.
Okay. Do you recall meeting at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs?
Saying hello, yes.
Yeah, was that before or after that first one? I just want to kind of...
That was after.
Okay. And do we have any kind of special interest relationship besides seeing each other at public venues for the TMT?
No.
Okay. Well, there we go. I just want to say that. Your characterization of me earlier, I kind of concerned me. You said exploratory, and while you said the others were clearly opposed. And I want to make sure that in the future, when you characterize me, that you we can have the same understanding. So, where did you get the understanding from, and why?
No, sorry. What I meant is that we met at a location which was not where the TMT was not the topic. So we didn't talk about TMT specifically. We talked about the long-term planning on the mountain, and exploratory in the sense that we were talking about different options for the lease extension, and that was the exploratory aspect of it. So I didn't say anything about it, and I think we didn't discuss TMT at that time.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that you made a point to give the others that you had spoken to in your narrative here the assignment of opposed, and then when you came to me, you said exploratory. So I just wanted to make that clear. Do you know if I'm opposed or for the TMT?
Yes, I know you are opposed.
And I'm opposed. Okay,
I just didn't want to make the appearance as if we would have discussed the TMT specifically, because
mahalo. It's my misunderstanding, I guess, but I appreciate the clarity. You mentioned in your 10-minute testimony, I believe, that publications from Mauna Kea and the telescope corporations or industry up there, you didn't say those exact words, but I'm just paraphrasing, is there are more publications and is dominating the world output in scientific knowledge.
Mm-hmm. In astronomical scientific knowledge.
And you listed that as if it was some kind of benefit or sort, but I didn't really see how that related as a accolade or benefit of the TMT itself, 30-meter telescope. So could you maybe expand on how the 30-meter telescope would increase this idea of publishing more and dominating the world output in scientific knowledge?
So just for clarification, the publications and also the citations, which means that how often other researchers are referencing your work, is the most important value in the sense of our scientific research that we are documenting towards the outside world. And the TMT will significantly increase that, as will other nations will also move forward. And so we, in order to keep the lead, we have to move forward ahead of them or with them.
So currently, without the 30-meter telescope, that part, that accolade or that benefit you speak of, as far as more publications and dominating the world output in scientific knowledge, that's happening now with or without the TMT. Isn't that not correct?
That's happening.
I mean, without the TMT, is that correct?
That's happening now, yes.
Okay, so without the TMT being built, that is the status of this accolade.
Yes, but you have to realize that the world scientific output in knowledge is growing, and other nations, like for instance the European Southern Observatory or the Hubble Space Telescope, will.
Sir, please don't argue with the person who's asking you questions. He's arguing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
But, I think you're a nice person. I appreciate you, and we've had good interaction, so thank you. I'm failing to understand how that particular accolade would be assigned to the TMT being built. Are you forecasting some kind of doom that I don't know about? Is there some kind of trend happening? Exactly. You said European this, and I'm still not hearing why essentially the TMT needs to be built to keep some kind of perceived lead in publications and scientific knowledge.
Objection, argumentative. Ask for an offer of proof as to where this line of questioning is going.
I'm going to overrule. Go ahead. Please answer if you're able.
So you make it is not true that only this total scientific output is the reason to build the TMT. We want to build the TMT because we want to learn and discover new things, and there are very specific questions that we want to answer with the TMT. And the scientific output is just a record or a demonstration to the rest of the world that we are really doing good stuff.
Mahalo, thank you. Okay, you use the word stuff, and that's what's bothering me. Good stuff, right? What kind of good stuff are we doing? We, meaning you and your constituents, I think.
We are making discoveries which are changing the picture that the world has about our cosmos. And many of these discoveries, as I said, are connected to Mauna Kea.
Okay, could you name a few of those discoveries?
Yes, so dark energy, for instance, the fact that the universe expands faster tomorrow than today. A black hole, the black hole in the Milky Way.
Can I stop you at your first point? How does that benefit me or any Hawaii Island resident, that first item?
I pointed out in my testimony that it doesn't affect, these discoveries don't affect people immediately, but over a long period of time, they are affecting, because if we understand physics better, we can also then utilize it better. And I have given a few examples of discoveries 100 years ago, which today dominate some of the economic of our life, and who knows what dark energy will have as an effect.
And those discoveries 100 years ago, did they involve a 30-meter telescope that's 18.5 stories tall?
The discoveries 100 years ago included the best technology they had available at their time. And so if they would have had a 30-meter telescope, then we would be already much further away today.
There's a lot of woulds and ifs that I'm just not comfortable with when you're talking about a sacred area like the summit of Mauna Kea. Could you expand on these woulds and ifs and stuff?
Objection, argumentative.
I wonder if you could, I don't understand the question, and it's sort of very general, so maybe if you could direct it to what you need to have answered.
Okay, what would you discover, can you say for a fact?
One of the discovery spaces is extrasolar planets that have life on them, so we could discover other life forms.
You could.
If the telescope would be built.
You guarantee, or is there a chance that perhaps you might not discover these things?
Mr. Sanderson?
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled. Please answer. Are you guaranteeing it, or is there a chance you might not find these life forms?
I cannot guarantee this.
Okay, but I like the positivity, so thank you. I said I appreciate the positivity of that, idea, but thank you for answering. What is this term you're using? I really don't understand, and perhaps it would make it clearer for the hearing officer and all of us. If you could define the beginning of time. I know they touched upon it earlier, but I still feel like I don't know what it means from you.
We know pretty well, and we believe that the universe started, our universe started with a Big Bang, and that was at a certain time, 13.4 billion years ago. And when we are looking back, we can look towards that time. This doesn't mean that time itself started at that time, but our universe started at that time.
That sounds a lot like the Kumulipo, like you mentioned earlier.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That sounded a lot like the Kumulipo, which you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yes.
So would that be a discovery, being that the Kumulipo already has it in there?
It would be a discovery.
Even though what you just said is already in the Kumulipo, the expansion from nothing and darkness to complete density to the expansion of the universe that we are in time now. Even though it's already been said and documented in the Kumulipo, you're saying you're going to discover that?
You said it sounds a lot like the Kumulipo, but it is not the Kumulipo.
What's the difference between what you had said about time starting, your definition, and what the Kumulipo says about the deep dark night and the great expansion?
We are looking backwards in time, and we can really see how things happened. The Kumulipo is a chant that is actually explaining how things happened from a forward perspective, and we can actually compare what we see with what theories like the Kumulipo are predicting.
What kind of perspective did you say? Forward or foreign perspective? I didn't hear you. You said the Kumulipo has
a forward perspective. Forward.
Okay, so you're saying the Kumulipo has a forward perspective?
From the start of time, yes.
Okay, I'm a little confused with that use of term. what would be the polar opposite so I can better understand what your use of forward means?
Polar opposite would be that there is somebody, a creator, that is going and put things together and then puts them there.
Okay.
And it is that is a different picture, and one could, in principle, test different pictures by looking at the sky directly.
I'm understanding a little better about your perspective of that. So you're saying with this telescope, you would or may be able to see the beginning of time. Is that correct?
I didn't say we see the beginning of time. I say we can look back towards the beginning of time.
Okay, that seems like an interesting thing to want to look back to. What was before time?
There are theories that the universe was created out of a chaotic system of vacuum, and it is like bubbles, that we are not the only universe, that other universes are there. So there is a theory that time is existing, but universes can come and go.
And you get this idea from?
From many, many different lines of research. It is only a theory.
Only a theory. Like a belief.
A set of assumptions that you would like to either confirm or shoot down.
You have belief in this theory? It's a question mark. Sorry. Do you have belief in this theory?
I hope that this. No, I cannot say that. It is a theory that we want to verify or deny.
So it could very well, and you did say earlier, so I don't want to be repetitive. So it could very well not be found.
It could be completely different. Yes.
So let's go back to this idea of theory. And did you? Just this theory in particular, you said that you have hope, but then you took that word back, and then you said instead, what do you think about this theory, this belief?
Sorry? I didn't understand.
Yeah, I know, it sounds really confusing, but what I'm trying to get at is, you believe in this theory? I'm sorry, I didn't really get
No, I would like to say, as a scientist, we don't believe in theories. Theories are set up by people, and then we try to, in principle, confirm. Actually, you never can fully confirm a theory, but you can, in principle, prove that it is that is incorrect.
And you would do that by?
By measurement, by new astronomical discoveries.
And these are discoveries that haven't been made yet, that you assert
yes.
will be made?
I'm not certain they will be made.
Not certain.
There is the possibility of discovering new things that can disprove theories.
And let me just repeat, you said you were not certain if they will be discovered. Is that right?
About a particular thing, I'm not certain that it will be discovered, but I'm certain that many things will be discovered.
And describe your idea of discovered.
Discovered means to unravel knowledge about phenomena that we didn't know before.
I might come back to this topic because I tried to take notes in sequence, but we're going to move on, if that's okay. You said one of the benefits, I think it was characterized as, correct me if I'm wrong, of the TMP being built was that you were, not you, but your association or whatever, the TIO, would be naming stars and discoveries with Hawaiian names. Is that right?
I said that one motivation of the discoveries on the mountain to respect and to pay our respect to the place and to the culture is to give objects Hawaiian names.
You also said that you've had conversations with Nainoa Thompson, and is it Mr. Babayan about star systems?
Babayan, yes.
Did they give you the impression that our stars had no names?
No.
Did they give you the impression that our stars had no names?
No, he did not give that impression.
Did he give you an impression that the star systems had no names? In other words, not stars, but other celestial objects.
I'm talking about new objects that nobody knew before. They cannot have a name.
How would you measure if nobody knew about them before? How would you gauge that and verify it?
I would look up in the literature. There are databases where you can look up which objects are already known and which not, and then you can identify whether you have seen a new object.
Do you speak Hawaiian?
No.
Are you familiar with the Hawaiian language literature repository, the historical Hawaiian language literature repository?
I'm familiar with some of the Hawaiian newspapers that we have translated.
That's one of them. Are you aware that only 6% of Hawaiian literature for 94 years during the kingdom time has been translated to English?
Yes.
You're aware that only 6% has been translated into English. Is it scientific to rely on 6% of the truth?
That is not applicable in this respect.
If you were repeating an alleged theory and a scientific process that made that theory true, and it's supposed to be repeatable, right, to be fact, the experiment. Are you with me on this? Because I'm trying to just bring up the scientific process.
If I'm discovering an object that nobody has seen before, at least nobody has documented before, with a method that nobody had available before, then I'm assuming it's a new object and then it gets a name. If I later find out that somebody else had discovered this object, then the new name will be stricken and the old name will remain.
Are you familiar with the pioneering mentality?
I'm sorry, the word?
Pioneering mentality.
Oh, pioneering.
Of Pioneer America.
In which sense?
In any sense. When you, how about particularly when you rename a natural feature? Or you name it. I'm sorry, in your perspective, you name it.
I don't know which context to answer that question, sorry.
What gives any entity the authority to go into so-called undiscovered areas and start naming manifestations of nature?
That's a mere process of exploration. If you go somewhere where nobody else went and you identify the features there, then you give them names. And there is a process. It's not that you yourself give them names, you are suggesting names. And for instance, in the case of Hawaiian names, we are getting input and we are giving that out to the community that suggests names, and then we would name them according to that. We don't name them.
Pardon me for interrupting, but where are we going with this?
To cultural appropriation and supremacy-centric culture.
So maybe we can go ahead and ask the direct question, because I'm getting a little lost.
Well, it is, outer space is big, so excuse me, I'm sorry. Wouldn't it be the same essential founding idea that you can go out and stake a claim somewhere, like say Undiscovered America, put a name on it as if you have authority, let me be even clearer. Isn't this the same culture that you're describing, going out and naming things that have so-called never been discovered before, and probably would you be assigning some ownership on that discovery?
Only in a scientific sense.
So there would be no patent for the name or none of that?
No.
In a scientific sense, explain the scientific sense of ownership.
Scientific sense is that the discovery of something new is associated in the literature. You are writing a scientific paper, and you are the first author of that paper, and everybody else who is referring to that object then has to mention your name in association with that object.
And you're saying that these are going to be discoveries that have been found for the first time, and therefore you're also saying that therefore you will name them. Is that right?
Not me, but the international scientific community is naming new phenomena, whether it's stars or new biological features that are found.
My purpose of this line of questioning is, first of all, that you acknowledge that only 6% of the Hawaiian repository for nearly 100 years of literature is available to you to even be able to understand in English, right?
What is the point of that?
The point is, how can he judge that about the naming, okay? When there's only 6% of the literature available on that history, and the other 94% is inaccessible, and putting a new name on there as if it's doing us a favor, when really it's erasure.
But I think he said there was a process.
Yes, he said they would look for the name, but when there's only 6% of literature available for 100 years, that process is flawed, and it's not doing us any favor.
I hear you.
You want to move on?
Do you imply that other people could have seen this object before and have already given it a name?
Yes, and definitely not, and definitely not written it down in your language for you to understand.
And how could they have seen this if we are only discovering it with technologies that were not existing before?
That's a question we would have to ask them. I don't know if "seen" is the right word. Yeah.
If that would be a great discovery if that would be happening.
Thank you for engaging me. I will move on.
Objection. This is argument, and
I'm not doing that.
Well, apparently it's some kind of discussion, but
I was trying to be cordial.
I'll accept your offer to move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more question, Your Honor.
Of course.
Okay. About that topic. And moving on.
All right, one more.
Taking into consideration my point about the 94% of literature available over a span of 100 years, that's all we know about that is in 6%. Would you think that would be still an accolade that Hawaiians would appreciate? You naming them another erroneous Hawaiian name?
Excuse me, but how can he speak for the Hawaiians? I don't think you want him to do that.
He did when he's listed it as an accolade. Like, it would be named with the native Hawaiian names. This was the first thing I think you said in your written direct testimony.
He's saying that's what's going to happen. It has happened in some instances already. But you're asking him how do the native Hawaiians think about that, or how should they think, or shouldn't they be offended, essentially?
Okay, I'm sorry, you're right. Can I reword it?
Yes.
Do you still feel that's a benefit for the Hawaiian people?
So I would say if these newspaper records are in Hawaiian, then the Hawaiians understand them and read them.
Sir, that's not the question.
And I would say if an object that I discover is already existing, then at least somebody knows, and I would hope that somebody would tell me, and then I wouldn't have to give it a new name.
What, sir? The question.
It's okay.
The question.
I know it's late. So, the question he's asking is, why is that naming something a Hawaiian name a benefit to the Hawaiian people? Why do you think it's a benefit? I thought you earlier said it wasn't to honor or to...
Yes,
So,
but he was implicating that somebody else had already found this object, and therefore I'm misappropriating their culture because I take a name which somebody else has already given. That's where he wants to come to. If an object is newly discovered, I think it is in the pride of everybody if it is given a new Hawaiian name. I think you would not question that.
Got it, and I appreciate the discussion because of the plethora of literature that actually shows different from what you're saying. Perhaps not necessarily.
I would just hope that some Hawaiian would tell us that this object is already existing.
And I would hope...
Dr. Haslinger,
Sorry.
Please.
Sorry.
Go ahead to your next question.
She's good to talk to.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. You used the term mainland earlier in your 10-minute presentation, and being that you're from Germany, and I consider my mainland Hawaii Island, I just want to put that out there and ask you, clarify.
I apologize for that. I mean the continent.
Okay. North America. Mahalo.
There was no response.
Oh,
I said yes. I apologize for that. I mean North America, and I shouldn't have said mainland.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. And then you spoke about asteroid impacts, being able to mitigate that as one of your accolades for the TMT being built.
Yes?
Are you implying that we cannot mitigate a potential asteroid, what do you call that? Cataclysmic disaster without the TMT?
Sorry?
Are you implying that we cannot mitigate a possible asteroid natural disaster happening to Earth without the TMT?
I imply that the TMT or something like the TMT could have a crucial input, which would be a yes-no decision whether you need to do something or not.
So is there technology and entities set up today that are or could be monitoring that exact threat of asteroid impact?
Not in this case that I was talking about.
Okay, I'm confused because I'm asking if that technology exists today and if entities are actually watching for asteroids as we speak.
Yes, we do. But we have not found one yet that is really impacting. And when we find one, then we need something like the TMT to tell us where it is impacting.
Objection to this line of questioning. This has been asked and answered by previous cross-examiners.
Yes.
I don't agree.
I don't want.
I'll go ahead and allow the line of questioning, but I'm going to ask you to get to the point, please. I think you made your point.
Well, I think I did too. I just want to reiterate that you said there have been no discoveries of possible asteroid impacts. I think you just said that. I just want to reiterate and agree with me or correct me that you stated that the technology that exists today has not identified any asteroid threat.
So far, all the asteroids that we have found have been turned out to be not dangerous, fortunately.
Thank you. And you said the positive impacts of the TMT might not be felt to decades. And did you also say generations later?
Sorry, no, I didn't say that.
Okay. Did you say decades?
No, can you repeat your first part of this sentence?
I don't know if my notes are correct. I was trying to take accurate notes, but I wrote down that you stated that the huge positive impact of the TMT, and I'm paraphrasing, might not be felt for decades or generations later.
I didn't say that.
Okay, for the huge impacts going to be felt, the things you described as positive accolades to building the TMT, when do we expect to benefit from these?
I think very immediately.
And could you expand on what those exact benefits are that we're immediately going to benefit from?
I think in its entirety, it could take many, many years, but the impacts will already be. I mean, I have mentioned many positive impacts that are already happening very quickly.
And that also applies to the positive accolades that I listed as far as naming them after Hawaiian names, your discoveries, as far as asteroid impacts. We're going to feel that even though there's no asteroid impact that has been identified as a danger. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I didn't.
You're saying that even though no asteroid impact threat has been identified,
yes,
we're going to benefit because they are going to identify one?
Yeah, I mean, they find new asteroids every day. And so far, we were lucky that we haven't found anyone that is posing a danger. There were some that were thought to pose a danger, but more and more accurate measurements turned out to be that they zoom by just 30,000 kilometers or so.
And we're immediately going to...
Just a minute, please. Sorry, there's an objection.
Objection, this line of questioning is cumulative and argumentative.
He did testify earlier about the accolades, and he did identify them very specifically. You're asking him to repeat that?
No, I'm asking him if he's acknowledging the prior statement, which is that we would immediately benefit from these benefits, and if asteroid collision and Hawaiian naming was part of that immediate benefit.
Yes.
And then I wanted to clarify, even though they haven't even discovered an asteroid threat. How can you guarantee an immediate benefit from something you haven't even discovered yet? That's where I'm going with this.
The potential is there to discover something tomorrow. We are discovering asteroids, many asteroids every day. And so over the time period of a number of years, it could happen.
So it's just prospect?
And even the knowledge that it doesn't happen is actually helping us.
I'm all for science. I like what you said, and I believe that. But would you consider these prospects rather than hard facts of accolades and benefits?
Prospects.
Thank you. You mentioned that 40% of our gross national product, and I'm going to say American, is that right?
Worldwide.
Worldwide. How can you have a gross national product that applies worldwide? It has to belong to a nation, doesn't it?
It's a percentage that applies worldwide. It was originally meant for the US, but I believe it's true for Europe as well.
Okay. Are you aware that in Hawaii, we import 90% of our food?
Yes.
How will the TMT impact that?
Objection. Relevance. I would ask for an offer of proof of this line of questioning.
Where are we going?
Well, if the 40% gross national product is relevant, I think the 90% of dependency is relevant. And if we're talking about accolades and positive things and science, I'm going to the fact that why aren't we addressing how to be sustainable now instead of looking somewhere else and spending all this money when 90% is a pretty alarming number?
Okay,
that's where I was going.
Argumentative then.
Okay, I'll move on.
Thank you.
You said the nearest planet, like Earth, and correct me if I'm wrong, is probably about 12 light years away?
Statistically, yes. It could be nearer, but I think on average it should be 12 light years away.
Statistically. Are you saying again that you don't know for sure?
Every measurement has an uncertainty, and this quantity has an uncertainty. It is on average 12 light years, but it could also be 14 or 10 or 5.
Or
we don't know.
You might not find it at all. Is that right?
No, that's not. I mean, we might not find it at all if we don't have the means to look at it, but it should be there.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Look at it. So if we found something 12 light years, what is it? Is that right? Am I saying the right term? 12 light years away? Not 12 million, yeah? Okay.
12 light.
If we saw something 12 light years away that was a similar planet like Earth, which I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that it has oxygen and water for life.
Yes.
If we found something 12 light years away, how would we access those resources?
Objection. Cumulative. Asked and answered.
Was it really? Sorry.
I don't recall that question being asked before. Do you?
I think we didn't talk about...
Didn't we have this discussion about the cell phone and the sale and how we could get there and how long it would take?
It was how we get there, but also I think his question is accessing resources. Maybe I'm splitting hairs, I don't mean to, but I thought that's what I heard, and it does seem to be a different question, so I'm going to allow it.
We would not access the resources per se, but I mean, first, this may not be the only planet. There are many out there, so at some point we may have a whole number of planets, and then we can compare them. And from studying them, we can actually learn how life is continuing on planets. And that will then give us some knowledge about how life would continue on our own planet.
Give me some examples of the kind of knowledge you speak of that we will acquire of how to survive on our own planet.
So some example of the knowledge is basically when we studied the Venus atmosphere, and we found that it was made of CO2 and that there's a very high pressure of it. We discovered the greenhouse effect. And then we realized that the same greenhouse effect is actually acting on our Earth, and that we are in a huge danger of overheating the Earth. And that was not known before we didn't study Venus. And in the same way, we could find in other planets, maybe all of a sudden there is a chemical in the air that is not in our own atmosphere, and we may learn something about it.
Those are great discoveries. Thank you for expanding, did you need a 30-meter telescope to discover those things?
Yes.
Which 30-meter telescope?
I would need a 30-meter telescope to discover those things in extrasolar planets, which are at 4 light years away.
So the 30-meter telescope is not required for that great knowledge that you discovered.
Objection, argumentative.
You're arguing.
So the 30-meter telescope was not necessary to make those discoveries, is what you're saying?
The one on Venus not, but the one on the other planets that it could potentially make, yes.
Exemplify on that and how the 30-meter telescope was, or a 30-meter telescope was essential to that discovery.
You say
Okay, just a minute. I'm concerned that we're digressing too much. I understand why, but my understanding of his testimony is that this 30-meter telescope will discover things beyond the capacity of existing telescopes. And should that happen, and you asked a great question about, well, what's an example of how that could help us? And as you know, Dr. Haslinger gave us the example of the
Greenhouse.
Venus and the greenhouse effect. And so he's saying if there are other planets out there that the TMT can help us discover, we might have similar type benefit here on Earth. That's what I think he's saying.
Yes.
So if you're starting to go into other things, that's where I'm worried about the digression.
Okay, so I'll move on because we're still talking. I just want to reiterate in another example, another clear way, that this is all just prospect and not reality.
I think he's already answered that.
In
It's
one example.
prospective, he said specifically.
Okay. But then in terms of discovering a new planet, I wanted to know about the resources and how we'd access them, if we'd access them, and then if they're even a real thing or a prospect.
He answered that too. He said we're not going to be accessing the resources. We're going to be learning about that from that newly discovered planet.
Well, Gona, and that's the important part for me, Gona and Wormwood, it's not will, but it seems like all prospect.
And he acknowledged that it's all prospective, yes. That's what I heard.
So is that what we're doing?
Yes.
All of it is prospective? Because then that would help me move on, because I was going to go point by point and point out how prospective they were.
All scientific studies are prospective. We
Okay,
cannot
thank you.
guarantee that we will find a result.
Moving on. You also said at the same time, during the course today, that you were not familiar with the impacts of the TMT.
I have not studied the impacts of the TMT.
Okay. Is it problematic to declare something benefit when you don't know the impact or the detriment?
Objection, argumentative.
It's argumentative.
How did you come up with a list of benefits from the TMT without looking at a list of detriment? I'll stop there.
I didn't.
You didn't come up with a list of positive
I
impacts?
didn't make this balancing. I think somebody else.
So
has
you
to
just
judge
looked
that.
at positive impacts,
Yes.
and you didn't bother to look at negative impacts?
This is not in my direct experience.
Thank you. Do you believe that in presenting a list of pros, positive characteristics of building a TMT, that there's a balance without educating yourself and others about the negative impacts? Do you believe there's a balance?
You know, I talked about balance in my testimony, and I said that we need to achieve balance.
But, okay, thank you. Another accolade was finding an Earth-like planet. And did you say that it was essential to improving life and health in Hawaii?
I didn't say this.
Do you believe it is essential in improving life and health in Hawaii, finding another planet?
You have to give me a time scale over which this statement is true.
Of all human time in existence,
Until the infinite future?
until we're extinct.
I would think so, yes.
Okay. How would it be beneficial to our life and health?
In about 500 million years, the sun will get too hot for the Earth to live on, and that means we will all either fry or cook, and by that time it would be quite good to have another planet to go to when the sun is getting too hot. So on a very long time scale, it is really, really important.
In your theoretic planet discovery that would house human life, you said that 12 light years away is the prediction of how far it could be. Is that right?
Objection for relevance to this line of questioning. Ask for an offer of proof.
I want to know how we're going to travel there, and if this is just the beginning of the plan, and the stakes are this high for my desecration and my harm, and the harm of others. Why would we want to find a planet that we cannot get to?
Well, that's your point, right? So that's why you're going to be making your arguments with your other evidence, right? What has to be weighed, how it can be weighed. This witness has already testified as to his information and the basis, and you've asked good questions. So thank you for doing that. Well, just stay in the where we need to have the information. Stay
I'm sorry.
No, I don't know, 500,000 years.
Sorry, it's late. Okay, I'll move on, and that's clear. So thank you for that. What if there are human beings or human-like sentient creatures already living on this planet?
Sorry?
What if there are human beings or human-like creatures already living on this planet? You gave us a scenario where the Earth would end and we'll have to find another planet to go to. What if there are other human beings, another culture living on that planet?
Just a minute, please.
Objection, lack of foundation, calls for speculation.
And I'm going to agree with that. And I'm also, I love this discussion, but just because it's interesting doesn't make it relevant to our contested case hearing. So I hear you.
How is it not relevant when these discoveries he's prospecting, and the scenario he also prospected?
He's giving you examples.
And I would like the example of how it would be executed, because it's just hearsay or fantasy if he doesn't have anything to back that up.
Well, honestly, I don't think the science. It sounds to me from Dr. Haslinger's testimony that the science is not developed there yet. And we are talking a couple of years away.
Yeah, I get it, I know.
So that being the case, I don't see how that question is relevant to this contested case hearing, because you're saying, okay, maybe we'll go there. Maybe when the Earth burns up, we have a second home. And your then question is, well, what if there are other people there? I mean, we are going to have a long discussion on that. So,
well,
I really,
it's very similar to what if there are other people who have burials on this mountain and they're prospecting this as land? Yes.
That is my very point. If we start going down there, we're not going to end. So
well, the topic is out.
I think it's very remote to the discussion. I understand how it's connected, but we don't want to go too far. I mean
it's the reality versus fantasy. I'm trying to. I mean, and I'm moving on, but this is part of this too.
I hear you.
He offered that fantasy or revelation, whatever you want to call it, of the end of the world, and I just want to know how we're going to get there. It sounds important.
I get it.
Thank you for your patience. I'll move on.
No problem.
Did you state that Mauna Kea is not sacred? Did I hear you right earlier?
As I stated, that Mauna Kea in its entirety, from the bottom of the sea to the top of the mountain, is not sacred as such, or not more sacred than our Mother Earth or our Hawaiian land.
That's a little different than not just what you said earlier, which what I perceived is not sacred. So it's just as sacred as Mother Earth and other Hawaiian lands?
The place that we are standing on.
Yeah. But you claim to know the Kumulipo.
I have read the Kumulipo, yes.
Can you explain for the people who might not know what the function of the Kumulipo is, or what it's for, or what it is at all, what the Kumulipo is?
I have understood that it is a generation chant. It's or a creation chant. It tells how things came about, how things develop from nothing into something. And in that sense, it is very similar to our current understanding how the universe was created. I was fascinated about the similarities between the Kumulipu and our modern cosmology. But that doesn't mean that the Kumulipu is right in the scientific sense in every word it is. It is just the concept of the Kumulipu that has very large similarities to our modern understanding of cosmology.
And you also stated very explicitly that Mauna Kea is not in the Kumulipu.
Mauna Kea is not specifically mentioned in the Kumulipu.
Are you familiar that in the culture, in Hawaiian culture, that entities, people, and otherwise, geographical entities, change names throughout time?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, the only thing I said is that the word Mauna Kea doesn't appear in the version of the Kumulipu.
What is the question that he just asked you?
Whether I'm familiar that names change.
Yes.
Yes.
Could you answer that, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I feel that assertion is very strong when you said that Mauna Kea is not in the Kumulipu. What I heard you say just now, that you meant the name Mauna Kea is not in the Kumulipu. Is that correct?
And not in the version of the Kumulipu that I read, which was the translation by Queen Liliko'ulani.
So not necessarily that Mauna Kea is not in the Kumulipu, but the name Mauna Kea is not in the Kumulipu.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the term pu'ua'e?
No.
Have you read the Kumulipu? I know it's long, and it's in there. That's why.
Yeah, but I read it in English.
And you're not familiar with the term pu'ua'e?
Pu'ua'e.
P-U okina U, and then the second word is e okina E. Pu'ua'e.
If you give me the English translation, then I will probably be...
I don't know if there is an English translation, but I'm just wondering if you're familiar with it, because like I said, Hawaiian terminology for names change throughout time, but you're not familiar with it.
No.
Would you consider yourself an expert on Hawaiian cosmogony in the Hawaiian language?
No.
And you said, again, you use Lili'uokalani's text.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the historic controversy behind her text of the Kumulipu?
No.
Do you realize, or do you know that there are other versions of the Kumulipu out there?
Yes, I mean, there are Hawaiian versions. There's one that Kalakaua himself has produced, yes.
Yes, Beckwith and others. Have you familiarized yourself with all the versions of the Kumulipu?
No.
Thank you. Sorry, give me just a second. And you're from Germany, like you stated earlier. Could you describe something sacred from the German lands?
As I said before, the churches are sacred in Germany to those people who believe in the religion.
How about from nature and the land itself, geographically sacred?
We don't have that concept.
You don't have any sacred geographic features?
I believe not.
What do you believe the definition, what is your personal definition of sacred?
Objection asked and answered.
I'm going to overrule sustain the objection, because we've used that word all day long, and he's had an interpretation, and whether we agree or disagree, he's already answered that. So
it just concerns me, somebody that doesn't have sacred geographic features in the culture is here talking about another culture's sacred things.
Well, that's why you can ask the question, and you could argue later on that it may or may not have influenced his opinions, but you're not going to fight with him about that. Okay, I think moving on, but thank you. Wrapping up that section.
Do you think the fact that you just stated Oh, the answer you just gave me about not having any natural geographical sacred things in Germany had any effect on your written direct testimony and opinions therein?
Objection, relevance.
I'm going to
Mr.
overrule
Hasslinger.
that. That goes to the credibility and perhaps bias of the witness, and I believe that's fair game. So could you answer that?
I think I did not really qualify what sacred means. Everybody has a separate opinion of what is sacred.
Sir,
And
do you understand the current question?
yes, so whether my German history basically has influenced how I wrote my testimony
Yes.
with respect to sacredness. And so I say yes, clearly. I mean, I have a historical background that gives me an image of sacredness, which could be completely different from somebody else's sacred impression. So everybody has to make up that himself.
So did it influence your written direct testimony and the opinions therein? I didn't hear the answer.
He said yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. You talked about Hawaiian navigation, and you spoke to Babayan and Nainoa Thompson, and you called it, your terminology was Hawaiian navigation. Are you aware where they learned how to navigate?
Sorry?
Are you aware of where they learned how to navigate?
I know that Nainoa Thompson had various interactions with the people in the planetarium of the Bishop Museum, where he was looking at the sky, and then he also learned how to navigate from Pilau, from the original master navigator.
And I believe you're talking about Mau Piailug, is that correct?
Yes, Mauki Kealoha.
Mau, M-A-U, I don't know how to spell his last name, Piailug.
Kealoha.
Yeah.
But what I said is that the Hawaiian star names, they reconstructed from the history and from comparing that with the star lines of the modern.
What qualifies their navigational learnings as Hawaiian, as you stated? If they learned it from a master in Micronesia.
Objection, argumentative.
I'm going to overrule. Please answer.
I think there is a speciality about Hawaiian navigation because it is including the stars of the northern hemisphere, which the Polynesian of the southern hemisphere did not have, and therefore you have to have a special Hawaiian navigation.
So it's geographical. The term you're using doesn't mean that they learned Hawaiian navigation from another Hawaiian. Is that right?
No, I mean they learned the stars above Hawaii that helped them navigate.
That's what I need to clarify. So in other words, you're not speaking of a Hawaiian cultural intergenerational teaching and learning.
My understanding is that this knowledge was lost over the centuries, and so it had to be recreated from some Polynesian navigators that still had it, but on the different skies. So the stars were in the north and the knowledge was in the south, and these two things had to be brought together, which was done through modern sky catalogs.
And may I interject? You're not saying Micronesia is part of Polynesia, right?
I just was talking about the southern hemisphere and the northern
Sir, just answer the question.
hemisphere. I didn't say that, sorry.
Yeah, you didn't mean that a Micronesia, like Mau Piailug is Polynesian. I mean,
Yes.
understand? Okay, thank you. So it's purely a geographical terminology you're using when you say Hawaiian navigation.
Probably, yes.
Okay, I'll take that answer. He also claimed, like Uncle pointed out earlier, that you said that you respect Mauna Kea.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Are you aware, in regards to your statement that some parts of Mauna Kea are sacred and not the whole thing, or the whole feature, are you aware of the Hawaiian oral history, like the Kumulipo, asserting that Mauna Kea was birthed and born?
I know that some of the traditions say that, but there are other traditions that say something else.
I'll speak for mine. Are you aware of the tradition that speaks of his parents being Papa, Hana, Moku, and Wakea.
I'm aware of that, and I'm also aware that several other places in the Hawaiian archipelago are named the same.
Well, we all came here from different places and have different histories. I'm only concerned about mine, so I'm glad you're aware of the others. Are you aware that in certain cosmogonies, like the Kumulipo, that the taro plant is considered born of the same genealogy?
No.
Are you aware of any other births to Papa and Wakea?
Any other what?
Any other children besides the Mauna to Papa and Wakea?
I'm not aware of that, but I actually cannot name them. I know that there are other.
You've heard it, but you're not.
I've heard it.
And Papa and Wakea are considered akua, or one way to say it in English is gods. Are you aware of that? And therefore, the children or child of a god or goddess, would only parts of their body be sacred? Would they be sacred at all? That's my question, my first question. Sorry for pointing.
I think that what we see as the sacred form is an incarnation of a spiritual form. The same way as when we talk about Pele, it is actually the lava that we are talking about. And so it is always depending on what you're looking at.
So you're aware of Pele, yeah? So the physical manifestation of Pele on Earth, do Hawaiians consider that sacred?
Yes.
Do they just consider the dry lava sacred, or just the hot lava sacred?
No, everything.
The whole thing. Is that what you're saying? Knowing that some of our traditions declare Mauna Kea born of Papa and Wakea, like he acknowledged, do you still consider only parts of Mauna Kea sacred?
I mean, are all other places that are born by the same are sacred? So I think in the same sense they are sacred.
Would you retract your statement that only parts of Mauna Kea is sacred?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
Okay, moving on. How can you respect Mauna Kea, knowing one of the traditions I brought up, which is that it was born of supreme gods, and this is the last time I'll say it, if you only consider parts of it sacred and not the whole thing?
Objection, argumentative.
Same ruling.
Really? So you acknowledge that some cultures that are called Hawaiian consider Mauna Kea the spiritual and physical manifestation of our God?
Again, I would say some features of it are physical manifestations.
So you're not aware?
So there is, for instance, there are pu'us that are named after...
Just a minute, sir.
Yes.
I think Mr. Sanderson wants to make an objection.
Objection. This is way beyond the scope of direct, and this has been asked and answered many, many times today.
Yes, we are really repetitive here.
Was he asked that if he was aware that Mauna Kea was both a spiritual and physical manifestation of our gods today?
No, but he answered you earlier when you asked him that specific question.
I don't think I did, but I'll move on. Sorry.
Well, if you didn't, sir, do you know that?
No.
I'll move on. Now, I heard you say the military would not be using the telescope. Is that true?
We don't have any military-related activities on Mauna Kea.
No military-related
Objection.
activities.
This line of questioning has been asked and answered several times today.
We have not talked about adaptive optics today.
I'm sorry? We have not talked about...
Adaptive optics.
We've talked about adaptive optics
All the time.
Yes, sir, we did. I've forgotten. I think it might have been
But have we spoke about the military connection?
a few times.
Oh, I might have missed it then. I'm appearing pro se.
Well, he said... Yes, I know that, too.
It's okay, I'll move on.
He said that he's not aware there's a military connection to TMT. That's my understanding.
Sorry about that. Just a second. Let's move on to the topic of Kalakaua. How big was the telescope that he was potentially interested in bringing to Hawaii?
Originally, the one that he was thinking of was about the size of the refractor in the Lick Observatory, which was, I think, 24 inches. And it was a relatively large structure. But in the end, the telescope that has actually been bought and implemented at Punahou School was only a 5-inch refractor, so it was much less than Kalakaua originally wanted to have.
24 inches was your first answer, yeah?
24 inches in diameter, but because it was a lens telescope, it was actually pretty big.
And you feel comfortable comparing a 24-inch, is it a telescope or is it a?
It's a telescope, yeah.
To a almost 19-meter, 30-meter telescope?
Objection, argumentative.
Are you asking a question that?
How is a 24-inch telescope relative to an 18-and-a-half-story astronomy complex, you know?
Does that sound like you're arguing with him?
I kind of wanted to acknowledge that they're not the same.
That would be argument, so I'm going to go ahead and sustain the objection. You can ask a different question.
I will. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Would you consider the impact of a 30-meter telescope compared to the 24-inch prospect of Kalakaua to be significantly different?
It would be significantly different.
Besides the fact that you're associating both of them with telescopes, are there any other similarities between the two different?
I never compared the two with each other. It was a completely different context.
Were you asserting, or maybe were you trying to say, because I didn't really understand that whole conversation, that somehow Kalakaua would build a 30-meter telescope on our Sacred Summit?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
What was the purpose of you using that for your for your oral testimony here today? Using the prospect of Kalakaua bringing a telescope to Hawaii?
Objection, this is asked and answered. We went through, the witness responded to the questions regarding Kalakaua and the telescopes previously. There's no purpose in re-exploring it now.
What is the significance of that
The
hearsay that you brought up? That's my question.
He didn't bring it up on his own. It's not in his direct testimony. There was a question asked of him by someone else's cross, and then his answer to the question was the information that he gave. So what are you asking him?
What I just said, which is, are we to believe that because Kalakaua wanted a 24-inch telescope, that he would be okay with this 30-meter telescope development? That's my question.
That's argumentative, and that's not what this witness is saying.
I would like to move the hearing officer to strike that discussion of Kalakaua from the record, unless I am also able to maybe introduce the picture of the telescope.
You can offer the picture of the telescope, just mark it as your next exhibit in order.
Okay, I will mark it as my next exhibit in order before Monday, if that's okay.
This is not Kalakaua's telescope. But anyhow, it doesn't really, it's not really.
It's okay, go ahead.
Are you familiar with George Tupman?
With who?
George Tupman, T-U-P-M-A-N.
Yeah, he was the astronomer that Kalakaua invited.
Sir, you need to speak in.
I am familiar, yes.
Yep, and who is he?
He is the astronomer that Kalakaua invited to observe the Venus transit. They brought their own telescopes and they took them away again. This is not the telescope that was bought and put into the Punahou dome.
If your testimony is correct about the 24 inches, then I would say that's true too, but I think it would illustrate. Would you say this one is bigger? Can I show it to him?
Yeah, show it to him, please.
Yes. It's smaller. Mhm.
Is it common practice of people in your profession in particular to cherry prick and appropriate historical examples of what you just, of the kind of thing that we're talking about today?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
Okay, moving on, sorry. I just think it was a significant comment, and I'm still wondering what the purpose
And
is
it
that you
might
made
be,
it.
but you can't argue with the witness.
Okay. How can I ask him what the purpose of him introducing that was for?
I already told you it was in response to a question that was asked by someone else.
Nobody asked if Kalakaua wanted a telescope on the mountain.
No, the person was asking this witness about some historical information or some background, and then he explained it.
Yes, he did explain it. And may I ask about that explanation? And just, since he's explaining it all, why did Kalakaua not bring that telescope to Hawaii?
Sorry, why did he not bring that?
Yes.
The 24-inch?
Yeah.
He wrote a letter to the British that he would like to have such a telescope. And then the next thing, I mean, we only have the historic record, and it may be incomplete. But the next thing is that we know that a telescope was brought to Punahou. We cannot really say that this is the Kalakaua telescope. There was never a 24-inch telescope brought to Hawaii.
Thank you. You spoke about Governor Burns earlier, or it was asked during the cross-examination or testimony.
I spoke about his son, yes.
Yes. And you then, in that conversation, you spoke about Native Hawaiians having input. Was that on the first telescope or the first road on Mauna Kea?
That was on the first complex, the road and the telescopes.
And where did you get this information from?
I got it personally from the son of Governor Burns.
Is it in your written direct testimony?
No, it's not.
Thank you. So would you say that, being that I cannot verify that and you haven't brought anything to verify anything you said, that you're engaging in hearsay, maybe?
Argumentative.
Well, it is hearsay.
It is hearsay.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, are you answering?
No.
I'm sorry.
I'm lost myself. So it is hearsay.
I'm concerned that you're lost.
Which by definition is an out-of-court statement. Statement doesn't mean words, it can mean objects. Offered for the truth of the matter asserted. That's the definition of hearsay. So yes, he relied on someone else's statement to him outside of here, and he's offering. We're allowing hearsay in this contested case hearing from everyone, and so if you're saying it's hearsay and he shouldn't have said it, I'm going to reject that argument, because I made pretty clear from the beginning that we're going to relax the rules of evidence. Folks are not lawyers. We're just trying to get the information out, but it needs to be fair questions to the witness, and it cannot be wasting time. It can't be cumulative, okay?
Thank you for that clarity.
All right.
I don't know if I already asked this, but is there any way to confirm that information? Did I ask that yet?
Are you asking the witness?
Yes. Gunter, is there any way to confirm that information?
The only way would be to get testimony by the son of Governor Burns.
Thank you. You mentioned the Kahuku Mauna. Did you say they have no authority on the Mauna as a consultation entity?
They give recommendations to the Office of Mauna Kea Management, and finally to they give recommendations.
To the Chancellor, is that right?
To the Office of Mauna Kea Management, and then ultimately to the Chancellor of University of Hilo, to the President of the University of Hawaii, and then to the Board of Regents.
Does their recommendation have any weight as far as the final decision is concerned?
Do not answer.
Objection, lack of foundation calls for speculation.
And how is this witness going to know if it's given any weight?
Isn't he the director of the IFA?
But you're asking him about other people and other entities, so how's he going to know that?
Doesn't Mauna Kea Management manage the whole summit?
How is he going to know if the decision makers give weight? That's your question.
If I'm not mistaken, that same process makes decisions for his entity. Is that not right?
Maybe I misunderstood your question. Why don't you ask it again?
My question was if Kahuku Mauna's recommendation had any weight as far as in the decision-making process for the final decision. And when I say weight, I guess I should kind of expand.
It's not the weight. It's how is he going to know if the Office of Mauna Kea Management or the Chancellor or the Board of Regents give any weight at all to...
Oh, well, let me ask another question then. Does Mauna Kea Management regulate your entity's work at all?
Only insofar as we are operating telescopes on the mountain, which are following the same rules as all other telescopes. So when we want to do anything on our telescopes, which are belonging to the UH, we follow the same process. We go through Kahuku Mauna, through Office of Mauna Kea Management.
Would you be intently following what Kahuku Mauna's recommendation would be?
Yes.
So would you know the weight of that recommendation?
Objection,
In the
lack
final
of foundation calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Is there a regulation or is there something in the rules that you follow in concerns of Mauna Kea Management that either quantify or regulate the recommendation for Kahuku Mauna?
I don't know.
You don't know. If the recommendation to Mauna Kea Management, and then if I got this right, to the Chancellor for the final say, was not incorporated in the decision, does Kahuku Mauna have a process to turn to make their recommendation have more weight?
I honestly don't know. I mean, this is not my kuleana.
So if Kahuku Mauna makes a recommendation maybe against an initiative that you might need to go through in that process, it's not your kuleana because...
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
I don't know about asked and answered. Like,
This is not the right person that you have to get that information from.
he works with them, and their recommendation's supposed to...
He explained how he is tied to Office of Mauna Kea Management, and it's insofar as his organization has to do whatever outside.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and I'll move on
So
after this.
he's not involved in the decision making, their administration.
But
How is he going to know how much weight?
He's the recipient of their decisions. He has to follow what they say, if I understand correctly.
If we make a request for our own telescope, and it goes in front of Kahuku Mauna and then Mauna Kea Management Board and Office of Mauna Kea Management, then we have to respect the decision that we get back from, in the end, the Chancellor or the President. I mean, President is my boss, so he tells me what to do.
And then I'll just reiterate what you're trying to say. He already said, which is that you don't know how much weight the Kahuku Mauna recommendation has. Has Kahuku Mauna's recommendation ever stopped an initiative that you were involved with?
I only had one direct communication with Kamahana, and it did not stop that.
One second. I'm sorry, I'm looking for something real quick. Here it is. In your written direct testimony, you stated that Hawaii is one of the best places on earth to observe. In your written direct testimony, Gunter, you stated that Hawaii is one of the best places on earth to observe the heavens. Is heavens a scientific term?
No.
What would you mean by saying heavens?
It is a layman's term for the sky.
Layman's term for the sky. What does it? Oh, so you're saying heaven means sky.
Yeah.
Does it mean anything else?
For some people, it means something else. It has a religious connotation as well, but I didn't mean that.
Objection, argumentative. Ask for an offer of proof as to where this line of testimony is going, or line of questioning.
I will ask for an offer of proof, please. Where are we going with this?
I want to know the character and the spiritual regard, the person who's writing such, to me, heavily weighted testimony for the TMT permitting, and just kind of have that out on the table so we know the biases thoroughly.
Well, we've gone through a rather large discussion about cultural practices, spirituality, religion to a degree, sacredness, and now he's explained to you that when he put the word heaven in his report, he was referring or using the lay term for sky.
I'm not familiar with such a lay term meaning that, but that's what I'm trying to understand.
You've never heard?
Not just meaning sky, no.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
You have understood that some people refer to
Yes.
the sky as heaven or heavens, right?
But I've never understood it to be simply the sky. And I want to clarify that.
Okay, well, he acknowledged that that's true.
If
That
I wanna-
there are other meanings,
Yeah.
and I'm going to stop that testimony right here.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Premier observatory in the northern hemisphere. Let me just read the whole sentence. Hawaii is one of the best places on earth to observe the heavens and hosts arguably the premier observatory in the northern hemisphere. That's like your second or third paragraph on the first page. Premier observatory in the northern hemisphere. What does that mean? Are you talking about one observatory or an observatory? Something else.
You can call it one observatory, but it is consisting of several telescopes, and each of these telescopes sometimes calls itself an observatory, but it is in principle an observatory.
You're talking about the whole area of the different telescopes?
The 13 telescopes.
Okay. You call the TMT project sustainable. Are you aware that on the summit and on Mauna Kea, we have the practice of Hawaiian burials?
Yes.
What is the resource needed for burials? Natural resource.
Objection, vague and ambiguous, argumentative.
Do you understand the question, sir?
I understand the question, but I don't know the answer.
What is essential for burying?
I don't know.
Can you bury without land?
Yes.
Explain, please.
You can spread the ashes in the sea, for instance.
Oh, yes, that's one way, but that's not burying. That's spreading the ashes in the sea. Would you agree?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
How can you bury something in the sea?
Objection, same objection, argumentative.
It's not the same thing.
Perhaps, Dr. Haslinger, you can explain what you mean by burial in the sea.
I think if you spread ashes in the sea, finally they will sink down to this ground, and then they will be covered by other ground, and then they will be buried.
That sounds like more the definition for sediment than buried. So I'm just trying to understand.
Objection. This is well outside of the scope of direct.
Where are
and
we going
argumentative.
with this?
Well, he calls the TMT project sustainable. And if these projects keep taking land, where are the burials? And if the practice becomes decriminalized, where are we going to be buried? If the land keeps being taken, instead of, it's not like you're bringing more land there.
So
It's not sustainable, in other words.
you're arguing
Yeah.
this point.
Well, I'm trying to
So
see how it's sustainable when it's not.
no, it's not. This is not the point you make with this witness.
He claims sustainable use of natural characteristics.
Yes, and he explained what that meant. And if you have other evidence, testimony to say otherwise, then you argue it in your findings at the end of the case.
What are these natural characteristics that you speak of? Can I ask him that?
Yes.
In this, yeah.
Objection asked and answered.
I'm going to allow you to answer this, but you're going to need
We
to
can skip
start.
it. I'm trying my best. I'm pro se. I don't know what standard you're measuring me to.
Sir, I've been really trying to
And
explain
I appreciate
things. And there are lots of people who are representing themselves. And so I don't think it's an issue that you're pro se. But my point is that we have to get to some points that this witness can answer.
If he's going to make a claim on his written direct testimony that the TMT project is an optimum and sustainable use of natural characteristics that make
Yes.
Mauna Kea, I want to know if my burial rights were included in that statement, because I think that statement should be stricken from the record.
Why are your burial rights and the sustainability tied together?
Because land is a resource, and if it's not sustainably being used, then I cannot.
I'm going to allow you to ask that one question, get an answer, and then we're moving on.
I forget what that question was. Can you read it back
About your
for us?
burial rights fitting into the definition of sustainability.
I know everybody's frustrated, so I really appreciate it, but I did not choose for the time to go on, and I came very far from Nanakuli for this, so thank you.
I'm not rushing you, sir, but we have to be focused. So, Dr. Gunn.
I think these sustainable characteristics refer to the points that make Mauna Kea one of the best viewing locations in the world. And then it mentions several things: sustainable atmosphere, low cloud cover, and so on. And from my point of view, I think we have discussed that topic, not with me as a witness, but I have basically understood that the project does not really consume resources. It observes starlight. The photons will be consumed by the mirrors, but that is not really sustainable. And
So
everything else is sustainable, either because it is a very small impact. Yes, it needs land, but this is a very, very small fraction of the land which is up there. And then this land will also be given back. So it is, if you look at it at the right time scale, it is sustainable.
Was the Hawaiian cultural practice of burial taken into account in your sustainability opinion in your written direct testimony?
I don't know. I mean, I did not talk about burials.
But is it considered in your opinion that this is a sustainable venture?
I'm not the person to judge that.
So when you say that you're not the person to judge that, does that mean you're not considering Hawaiian burials in that statement?
Objection asked and answered.
Yes, it's already been asked and answered.
That he's not?
He said he didn't consider it.
I didn't hear that. Thank you. You speak of the Hubble telescope in your written testimony as well. And you say that more about scientific publications being more in number because of Mauna Kea telescopes. And you already stated earlier that it's a result of the current telescopes that are up there now. Okay? What is the big deal about the most publications? Are you referring to quantity or quality?
Objection, cumulative. Many of these questions have been asked and answered previously regarding publications in the Hubble telescope.
Yeah, I agree.
Why is the number of publications some kind of presumed accolade? I don't understand a justification.
Same objection.
I'm going to allow the answer to this one. Do you
I
understand the
already
question?
said before that it is not the number of the publications, but the quality and the discoveries. So what is really in the focus is the new knowledge that we generate. But the number of publications is in principle a kind of record to the rest of the world who are not easily knowledgeable about the significance of the individual observations.
So each of those publications, do they proclaim some kind of undiscovered and newly discovered feature?
They have to. And not just features, but also new theories, new interpretations, it is all together.
So more theories.
Confirmation of theories, disproval of theories, it's the scientific process. I think you cannot break it down into
This year alone,
individual parcels.
could you maybe name a couple of these publications that would have such a huge impact on the science world that I might not know about?
This year,
Yeah, this last 12 months.
last 12 months, the discovery of gravitational waves, for instance.
And how does that affect me? How does that affect me?
Objection, argumentative. And the witness, and lack of foundation, the witness could not possibly know how it would affect the cross-examiner.
I sustain the objection.
How would it benefit people, that first discovery you listed?
I already mentioned that the benefits will come and have come later. I mean, in this particular case,
Yes, particular.
this was the final confirmation of the Einstein theory of relativity, which was the basis of the GPS system. So now we know that there is no other physics out there and that we don't have to correct our understanding of the GPS system, for instance, which is in your iPhone.
And it's a benefit because?
Objection, argumentative.
He just answered the question.
I still don't understand what I use it for and how it benefits me or anybody.
He just told you why. You're talking about the articles, right? You asked him about a
I'm talking
couple
about
of
the
examples
publications.
of publications
This
in the last
particular.
12 months, right?
And that one discovery he's speaking
And
of.
that, how does it benefit people?
Yeah.
And he just explained what why he thinks that.
What was that benefit again? I didn't hear it.
The GPS in your phone.
So I would not have GPS before 12 months ago? Is that
Now
what
you're
saying?
arguing with him. He's answered your question. You need.
So let me get it straight. My GPS would not work.
Without the theory of relativity.
And this is discovered in the last 12 months.
This was the last coffin nail, so to speak, that proved the theory of relativity. So we now know that forever your GPS will work.
Was it working before the discovery?
To a certain degree, yes.
Serious. This is not significant stuff to me, and I don't understand. I mean, I heard you sigh.
Objection, this is argument.
Sustained.
I think it's very valid. If this is a benefit to me that I understand, or to people, that I understand what that benefit is. And he's telling me GPS would, what are you
Sir,
telling me?
You asked him a question. He's now answered you. Why are you arguing with him?
Because I had GPS 13 months ago and 12 years, you know what I mean?
He's not saying that you wouldn't have it. You asked him about publications and an example of how it benefits people. He just gave you that. Whether you like your GPS or use it is not the issue.
It doesn't sound like a benefit when I can't even understand it. I'll move on.
Well,
It seems like my GPS worked the same way 13 months ago as it did 12. Is that not true?
Sir, he's already explained it. If you don't understand it, perhaps you could...
I think I understand perfectly that my GPS was working 13 months ago.
No, if you don't understand his answer, then that's a problem for you, and I'm sorry, but
Is that a
he's
benefit?
already answered, and you're arguing with him. I'm going to ask you to move on, please.
How is it a benefit? Because the next line, really close to that one, you state generating new knowledge about the universe. Was that an example of generating new knowledge? I'm asking him about his statement that says that Hawaii will maintain its leading position in generating new knowledge about the universe. Was that an example of that?
Objection to this line of questioning. This has been asked and answered. This is repetitive.
About that discovery that?
Sustained. Yeah, he explained it.
And that's new knowledge? Okay, never mind. I'm moving on. If you say so. The other questions you propose, the TMT will answer or enable the scientific breakthrough of is what is the universe made of? How did it form? How do stars and planets form? Where did we come from? Where will we go to? And is there life elsewhere in the universe?
Yes.
Are all the other sciences unable to answer those questions?
Objection, argumentative.
I'm going to overrule that, but I'm not sure you can answer. If you can answer the question, please do.
I didn't say that this is the only way.
Sir,
Yes.
are all the other scientists unable to answer those questions, yes or no?
Science says.
Are all the other sciences unable to answer the questions?
I can't make that statement.
Okay, thank you. One of the intangible benefits you state on page 2 at the bottom is Hawaii's reputation as a modern place of discovery. Several astronomical objects and structures have been given Hawaiian names. Sorry, I think I addressed this already. I'm going to move on.
We were there.
You also mentioned in the same paragraph about benefits that the International Astronomical Union held its triennial, is that how you say that? General Assembly in August 2015 in Honolulu, bringing several thousand astronomers to our state from around the world. Having this convention, how is that let me rephrase this right. How many Hawaiians or local residents attended this conference? Do you know?
A number, I don't know the exact number, but
I didn't hear your answer.
a number of Hawaiians and locals, I mean, many locals.
Sir, do you know the answer to that question? He asked you how many.
I don't know it exactly.
I asked him if he knew the answer. Okay. So your answer was you don't know exactly, right? Okay. How much did it cost?
The council just motioned this to the witness.
I haven't looked at the council, sorry.
Just saw it right now.
So, Ms. Kihoi has indicated that one of the UH lawyers has signaled to the witness something, and I'd like to ask the UH to put a record, make the record.
I was expressing frustration with the length of time this is taking. I did not signal an answer to the witness.
Okay.
I'd be less frustrated if I was getting paid.
I'm sorry?
I said I'd be less frustrated myself if I was even getting paid to be here.
Mr. Kealoha, that's really uncalled for.
Well, so is frustration when some of us are here getting paid and some of us are not.
I understand that.
I'm offended. Just wanted to make that note on the record.
Well, I understand that, so please ask the next question.
You make the statement about more educational opportunities to Hawaii students. And to develop astronomy as an economic driver for the state of Hawaii. How long has it been since the first telescope was built on the Mauna?
Almost 50 years.
50 years. And in the 50 years, these two items, have they been accomplished?
Partially, yes.
Partially, how?
The educational as a component has been accomplished, and the economic driver has been accomplished as well.
I'm a graduate of Waimea Middle School in the 80s. What would I have benefited from in that time period from when the first telescope was there in 1985?
Objection, lack of foundation, argumentative.
Sustained. How you would have benefited at Waimea Elementary School in 1985.
Well, maybe I should ask him who's benefiting from this, if not the citizens who sit in the face of the Mauna.
You can ask him any question you want to, as long as it's a question that he's able to answer. You have failed to lay the foundation.
He states right here that
Do you know him from 1985?
I don't, but
Does he know you from 5th grade in Waimea Elementary?
it's not about that. It's about the population of people there and what benefit they might have received.
That was your question to him.
Well, I'm part of the population.
But you asked him specifically about you. He has to answer the question you asked him.
Okay, it's late.
So
I didn't plan.
he lacks foundation. I can only explain it so many times. So please go forward.
I assume that when you make a statement in your written direct testimony, like more educational opportunities to Hawaii students, that I have a right to ask, what are those more educational opportunities to Hawaii students? And in the context of me being me, that's how I'm asking it. But I understand the problem of that. So what are the benefits if it's not me?
So I have given some direct answers to that question on page 3 about the economic benefits. I said, think about the additional tax dollars that provide important public funding for road improvements, the bus system, waste management, social services, public education. Think about the direct spending of the astronomy enterprise in salaries and purchases that support local businesses, which again employ local people. And I said this segment of the Big Island economy will grow considerably when PMT will be there.
And where can I find this data that you claim exists?
It's only the numbers in the UHERO study.
I cannot hear you, sir.
Sorry?
Pull the microphone closer. to
Sorry.
you.
The numbers are in the UHERO study, which is part of the, which is actually A033.
And I would need to know those numbers for each of the items you claim. Could we go over those?
No.
But you have them right there?
No, I think the UHERO study has them in there. And there's a relatively complicated model that goes in input and output, and I can only summarize those quantities.
Okay. Could you summarize those quantities?
I think I have summarized them.
I'm trying to be
Objection, asked and
aware.
answered.
Please direct Mr. Kealoha to where in your, is it in your direct testimony?
Yeah, it's in the direct.
So please call our attention exactly to the place that you summarized it. So you can see it.
It is above this line. It's on page 3.
I thought we were talking about summarizing the numbers.
He's telling you he did
Yes.
that already.
So I
So
said
he's
it.
pointing you to the place in his letter, his direct testimony, that he thinks he summarized. So
He
page-
read them.
I'm sorry?
He did, he read it. I thought he offered to summarize the accounting of the numbers,
He,
not a list of,
okay, so you don't want him to answer?
I think he already read that part. The answer I was looking for was the answer he offered, which I thought was in that report with the numbers to back up what he said.
The numbers are in the direct testimony just above that quotation that I gave you. It's
Maybe I'm not looking in the right place.
$168 million and a job creation impact of 1,400 and generated state taxes of $8.2 million. So every year, the state taxes that are $8.2 million that are produced over those 50 years, so you can calculate how much the total volume is.
These 1,400 jobs, how much of them are full-time positions?
I don't know. It's all.
This is what I want to talk about, though. I mean, you stated it, and I thought maybe you'd
He
be...
gave you an answer. He doesn't know.
Okay, so you don't know. Then, does that mean you don't know how much of them are temporary?
You could ask him a question, he'll answer you.
What is the median income for these 14,000 or 1,400 jobs? What was that?
I also don't know I also don't know what the median income of those 1,400 jobs are. But these are jobs in the community, so those are not jobs in the observatory. So I would guess the median income of those is roughly the median income of the Hawaii population as such.
And that's your guess?
That's my guess, yeah.
Are there, to the best of your knowledge as a director of IFA, are you able, or do you assess how many telescopes are working and how many might not be working or in service?
I know that all of the telescopes are working apart from two, which one of them is the CSO that has stopped working in September this year because it is going into decommissioning. And the other telescope that is not working is the Hokukea educational telescope, and I explained why.
The Hokukea belongs
May I
to...
interrupt you for a moment? I just need a 5-minute break to stand up. Just 5 minutes, please.
I missed my plane, so I have plenty of time.
contested case hearing for the 30-meter telescope project, a proceeding for the State of Hawaii DLNR's Board of Land and Natural Resources.
You're watching Naleo TV.
Okay, let's resume, please. So I appreciate everyone's patience this
Thank you.
afternoon. I really, truly do, and the witnesses as well. I was asked over the recess a few minutes ago if to allow Tiffany Kakalia to take her turn at cross. This is in the middle of someone else's cross, which was objectionable yesterday, as I recall. Yeah. So you remember what I said. Now what happens for one happens for all. All right, but I understand she's here with her beautiful mo'opuna,
Yeah.
and she's just going to take a few minutes. So if you don't have any objections, Mr. Kealoha, I would ask that you might give the courtesy to allow her to go right now.
It would benefit me if I had some time to also, because I have to make calls for my flight that's leaving, and
Okay.
if that okay, if
As
yeah,
long as you don't ask the same questions she asked while you were gone.
I will try to listen with both one ear.
Yeah, all
Thank you.
right, good. All right. So I'm just going to ask, no objections, Mr. Sinkin, no objections, Ms. Pishota, no objections, Mr. Ashida, Mr. I've forgotten your name already. I'm kidding. Mr. Shinam, I blame this all on you, by the way. I know. All right. And what about Mrs. Freitas and Mr. Fergestrom, the university?
No objection.
No objections. Ms. Lighthold? No objections. And Ms. Kihoy? No objections. Ms. Lighthold said no objections, right? Did I hear that right? Yes. Okay. All right, so let's go forward. Yes, Ms. Van Gogh, I know. I always want to call you Van Gogh, but sorry.
I just want to say Mr. Sanderson was just coaching the witness again.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to say what? We don't have a record if...
Was just coaching the witness again, telling him to stop talking. I mean, his gesture was so big it caught my eye. I was looking over here and it caught my eye.
Okay.
I saw it as well.
Mr. Sanderson?
I apologize. I tend to express myself with my hands. It's a bad habit for a lawyer in this circumstance, and I will do everything I can to keep my... I apologize. I tend to express myself with my hands and do stuff like that. I will try to stop it.
Okay.
I apologize.
You should just roll your eyes like I do.
And I would just like to clarify that the first time that I objected to that, the motion was like this. That's not anything like this. It was clearly motion to not answer the question.
I see. Ma'am, I need you to take the microphone because otherwise nothing you say is going to be recorded.
When it was brought up yesterday,
Yes.
you know, you kind of told them not to do that because I don't know if there's ethic problems or, you know, what that is, but.
Well, I directed the witness to look at the questioner, and I thought that would help to mitigate the problem.
They're still doing it, though, and so they're testifying basically for the witness, and they're not under oath.
But in this case, he was telling the witness to stop because I was talking, and
Yes.
I think the witness was trying to say something, and he needs to let me talk. So I caught that. I understand your objection. I thank you for making it, and your observations are known and on the record. So
Okay.
I think that's important.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
So I don't want to bother you, Mr. Kealoha. You ready? Don't hang up. Are you waiting for somebody? Let's go off the record.
Difficult. I'm trying to set up my flights and stuff, and it's difficult.
I know. What? They're not listening to you.
I'd be happy to hold it for them.
No, no, that's a transfer. That's a transfer all over.
Huh?
Yes, I'm just on hold now.
You're on hold.
Yeah.
I can hold it for them.
You want Mr. Wineoff to hold the phone?
If this is the best way to do it, it's really compromising my ability. But
Well, we can wait if you want.
isn't there anybody else who can go in the meantime?
Well,
We never planned for it.
no, I got that. We're just trying to, we have to go with the flow. So, yeah, you're off the record. So, what do you think, Ms. Freitas? Are you okay or no? You want to wait till after he's Paul? Okay.
I'm just on hold. It just feels weird. So, is that okay? It's complicated because I have to change my flight in miles, and I don't know what they're going to ask. But I'll be back.
Huh?
I'm on the phone.
Talk to him.
It took a long time.
I know, don't complain. Just talk to him. We'll take a recess. You ready? All right, so I apologize for interrupting. I know we're going to have some discussion. I'm happy to stay after, but while we're, let's try to wrap up the witness, and Mr. Kealoha's ready. The witness is going to testify under the oath you took earlier to tell the truth, sir?
Yes.
Okay, bring the microphone all the way close to you and
Yes.
don't move it. Thanks. Okay, Mr. Kealoha.
Okay. Do you believe that Western knowledge, like science, is superior to the knowledge of Hawaiians, cultural knowledge of Hawaiians?
Objection, argumentative.
I think it's leading someplace. I'm going to overrule. Answer, please.
I think I already
Sir,
said
the answer is yes or no. Do you believe that?
no.
No. Okay.
And he did say that before, by the way.
I was just confused because in your statement about drawing students in to the programs that you have, you said you have a portion where they learn about Hawaiian culture and it draws them in, and then you move on.
I didn't say that.
You didn't say you move on from Hawaiian culture after drawing students in with the Hawaiian culture?
No, I said that in our teaching we include elements of Hawaiian navigation, and also in our, for instance, open houses. Also, we have the Polynesian Voyaging Society, and by explaining the Hawaiian stars, we increase their understanding And then we move on to explanation of, but not drawing them in, just to get their
What do you move
attention.
on to? What do you move on to?
To other topics, to galaxies, to cosmology, astronomy has a very broad...
So the
base.
science of astronomy is what you move on to?
I think the Hawaiian astronomy is astronomy as well.
Yeah,
It's no different.
Okay. Could you describe or could you tell us why you use the term move on? Because to me that indicates something else, and I just want to give you a chance.
No, it's just that the foundation is laid, and then you move on to something else.
And you leave it behind?
No.
Okay. I'm trying to understand the term move on. That's what it means to me. And you don't leave it behind. Can you explain that?
When I said the foundation is based, then you don't leave the foundation behind, but you build on the foundation.
Okay. So do you teach... okay. Do you know the Hawaiian word for navigator?
Kilohoku?
That can kind of be close to it, but not necessarily. But I'm impressed by the try. How do you incorporate Hawaiian teaching in your study before you move on to other things?
No, I didn't say that I personally do this, but we in our curriculum do this. For instance, Paul Coleman, as a Hawaiian astronomer, is great in making connections between Hawaiian understanding and others. And as I also said, when we do our outreach, we are bringing people into a portable planetarium where we project the sky, and then we explain the star lines, and then we tell what the Greek names of the same stars are. So just to make the connection.
And then the intent is to teach Western science or astronomy?
No.
Okay, I'm trying to clarify. That's why I'm asking. What is the intent?
The intent is, in this case of the public outreach activities, is to get the excitement. These are kids and young people, just to get their attention and to bring them onto a base.
I see. And I'm just trying to clarify, because I'm sure you're not meaning you just use the Hawaiian culture to get their attention.
No,
right?
No.
I'm not trying to be, I just want to be clear so I can. Okay. Because you list that as kind of like, I don't know if I'm using the right term, benefit or mitigation. Is that right?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Yes, and if you could lay the foundation, Mr. Kealoha.
Okay, I'm sorry. You explained earlier that one of your objects for your entity that you're the director of is education.
Yes.
And it includes this educating of the young children, like you said, students.
That we would call outreach, but it's part of the whole educational chain of the pipeline, as we say.
Okay. And you have a view that the Hawaiian culture might attract them into your program. Is that right?
No.
So you didn't say that it draws them in?
It draws, I said that when we are in class and we are giving the lecture about the Hawaiian culture, it draws them in mentally, so to speak. It gives them a foundation on which to base the future studies.
So when you're teaching this Hawaiian cultural information, who is teaching this Hawaiian cultural information?
For instance, Paul Coleman is one of the best teachers that we have.
What was the name?
Paul Coleman.
Thank you.
Could you spell the last name if you don't mind?
Coleman, C-O-L-E-M-A-N.
Oh, Coleman, okay.
Paul Coleman.
Is he a Kamahana Kealoha?
He would probably be called a Kealoha.
Is that what you consider him?
Yes.
And what is the vetting process for getting these Hawaiian experts to be the teacher of this cultural component?
My understanding is that all people who study the stars are Kealoha.
your understanding is that anybody who studies the stars is a kilohoku, kahuna kilohoku.
Not necessarily kahuna kilohoku. I don't know the discrimination.
Okay, what are his expertise, Mr. Coleman's expertise?
He has a professorship in astronomy, and he's at the same time our first native Hawaiian astronomer, and so he has also the background and the lineage to the Hawaiian culture.
So are you saying that it's his blood quantum that makes him knowledgeable?
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled. Answer the question, please.
I didn't say anything about blood quantum.
Because I didn't hear anything
So
about...
would that your answer be no?
No.
Okay, because I didn't hear anything about how he's verified as an expert to teach these cultural components. So you said that he is part Hawaiian and comes from a lineage, so I assumed you meant he was born that way. Is that what you meant?
He has a Hawaiian family background and roots, and so he has some knowledge about the tradition.
So you could have hired anybody who was born Hawaiian, is that what you're saying?
Sorry?
Are you saying that anybody who's born as a Hawaiian, that means having Hawaiian blood, I guess, Kanaka blood, is pretty much the prerequisite for the job that we're talking about now?
No.
Okay, what are the firm prerequisites for his knowledge being expert?
We are talking about the Hawaiian Star Lines.
We're talking about the Hawaiian cultural component that you draw children in and say you keep with you.
I think everybody who studies that, even if he doesn't have a Kanaka or a Maoli blood, can be a specialist in this.
Did you put a job notice out for this job?
Sorry?
Did you put an official job notice out for this job?
No.
Does it have any desired qualifications and optimal qualifications for this job? Like, what's the job description and how do you qualify for it?
No.
Did you do the hiring for this?
No.
Who did the hiring for this?
My predecessor did the hiring.
I'm just trying to figure out what the standards are that make somebody qualified for this job. Can you maybe go over that?
I think his qualifications are foremost, he's a professor of astronomy and astrophysics.
Yes.
And when we said we are developing a curriculum, it is actually the faculty's task to develop curriculum, and the faculty is completely self-determined in what they put in their curriculum. So the fact that Paul Coleman is teaching astronomy using the Hawaiian compass and navigation is a plus, but it is not a requirement.
But it's based on a curriculum you mentioned, right? So in other words, they use other resources to form the curriculum. Is that right?
No, the professors are defining their own lectures, and that's the curriculum.
So he's defining the Hawaiian cultural component. Is that right, Mr. Coleman?
He has chosen to choose a Hawaiian cultural component as introduction and foundation into this topic.
And you don't, so is he an expert in Hawaiian culture?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Is he an expert on the Hawaiian culture?
I can't say, I can't judge that, sorry.
Would you say his hiring is in regards to whether, let me say this right, would you say that his hiring was erroneous compared to the expertise of Hawaiian culture? Or in
Objection, argumentative.
No, I sustain the objection, but where are you going with this?
I mean, we can throw the word Hawaiian around all over the place. I want to make sure it's a benefit and it's an actual thing.
Okay.
Like, how is it Hawaiian? Who said it was Hawaiian, and what's the process? How did he vet this? Why would I would have liked the opportunity to apply for that job? Maybe, maybe not. Like, and I also want to verify that these accolades and benefits he's claiming are clearly benefits.
Objection. This line of questioning is well beyond the scope of direct. The witness has answered the questions about the qualifications for the job.
Well, I think you have answers, but I don't know. You know, it's the example I gave you earlier about, okay, you get to a certain point, this makes sense, but then we start going off. And that's what I'm worried about. Are we going off on some tangent that
Okay, yeah, I think you're
becomes
telling me
less,
you understand it.
becomes less relevant
Okay,
to this case?
and then let me wrap up with this last question. If it's possible, I'll just ask it first and you'll tell me. Do you understand the importance of vetting Hawaiian knowledge that you claim you are teaching?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. But wait, yet, let me just reaffirm what you said so I understand you. There is no vetting process for this now.
I didn't say that.
So there's job.
Objection, argumentative.
Ask the question. He's answered your question.
So for the job currently, he said that he understands the importance of vetting for expertise in this component for the job, but he hasn't answered the question. I want him to confirm whether that was done for this position as is.
So ask him that question.
Okay, I tried, I'm sorry. Was this vetting for the position with job requirements and all the things we just talked about done for the current position?
We didn't talk about vetting of the position. The position is a professorship, and the professor is himself responsible for what he's teaching.
Got it.
And the vetting of the contents of what he's teaching, he has to do according to the normal standard academic rigor. So he has to verify his sources, and he has to check that what he's telling is right. And that is a standard vetting process, and how he does that is depending on whether he talks to other Polynesian navigators or whether he reads this in the literature. That is his own kuleana.
I understand better now what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier about some funds, some benefits packages that are involved with the building of the TMT and its completion. And you said some of the funds would come in the future and not all at once. And you said some of those funds, and correct me if I'm wrong on all this, some of these future funds would be shared with OHA. Is that right?
Sorry, no, I don't remember. What funds are you talking about?
In the benefits package involved with the building of the TMT, like the Think Fund and all those.
I didn't say anything about sharing with OHA. No.
Objection, assumes facts not in evidence beyond the scope of direct.
Overruled, he answered.
I'm trying to figure out what my notes say too. I'm sorry, that's what it says here, so I'm trying to go with it. So you're saying that you did not say that future funds would be shared with OHA?
I don't remember.
Objection,
Okay.
asked and answered.
He earlier said he did not say that.
Well, there was a number of things they said. I just want to make sure that particular one.
So you asked him the question, he answered your question.
I'm trying to see where I got that from. Just a second. Are you aware of benefits packages involved with this 30-meter telescope and TIO completion of construction?
I mentioned some of them in my testimony, yes.
And maybe you share with me whether you know, I don't know if I'm asking the same question, if any of these monies will go to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
There is a component that is a part of the lease, which I don't know very much about, but this lease monies are, according to Act 132, 20% of those lease funds go to OHA.
Where does the other 80% go?
To the management of the mountain.
Do you know possible scenarios of amounts of monies that you could go over? Like projected amounts of monies that might be made and might be distributed?
I don't know.
Okay. And I thank you for your patience and time. My other concerns, and maybe you can tell me when it's appropriate, has to do with motions and whatnot that happened on the floor. So I can do that whenever the appropriate time is, and I'd like to thank you for your time, and everyone else too.
Thank you, Mr. Kealoha. We'll deal with that right after Ms. Freitas.
Mahalo.